Hello, everyone. I'm Valerie Milano with the Hollywood Times. We are proud to be a media partner of this year's Hollywood Queer Film Festival, and today I'm especially honored to be speaking with filmmaker Betsy Kalin about her powerful new documentary, Lesbians of Boys Town. This film shines a spotlight on a community that has shaped so much of Los Angeles queer history, from activism to nightlife, politics to personal stories. For me, it's personal too. Many of the incredible people that are featured in the film are longtime friends and colleagues. Seppi Shine, Marna Deitch, Alana Roche, John Heilman, John Duran, and so many others. I've even had the joy of honoring Robin Gans and Sandy Sachs of Girl Bar at Desert Legends, an event that I co-produce. So this conversation is not only about a groundbreaking documentary, but about celebrating a community I know and love. Betsy, thank you for joining me. Good afternoon, Valerie Milano here, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and also with Aspiring Magazine. I'm here in Palm Springs right now, but I am so glad to have our guest here today and my friend, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. Thank you so much for being with us.
Sure. Hi. Thanks, Valerie. I'm Betsy Kalin. I directed the documentary Lesbians in Boys Town, and I'm originally based out of West Hollywood, but now I live in Orlando, Florida.
Yes, and I'm so glad you took the time with us. I'm so glad you got your film finished. Betsy, what initially inspired you to take on Lesbians of Boys Town? Did you anticipate how personal and political the film would feel to so many of us who lived through that era?
Yeah, I did. I was a West Hollywood resident for over 20 years. And my wife, Chris Chu, made the film with me, and she also was a West Hollywood resident. And it was actually her idea to do this story because we noticed, as some of the few queer women in West Hollywood, that our story really wasn't being told, and that we suspected that there's this long history of queer women doing amazing things in the city. And so we started doing research, and we went all the way back to the 80s and the founding of the city and everything that, all of these incredible women had done, but just wasn't part of the historical record. Nobody really talked about it and nobody knew their contributions. And so we thought it was really important to tell the story.
How did you navigate balancing nostalgia with historical documentation? Were you aiming more for celebration, preservation, or activism, or a blend all of the three?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's too much nostalgia in the film, although we do have stories about what the Palms bar was like or what Girl Bar was like and things like that. But it's mostly all of these women telling their own stories about their relationship to the city, their history, what it meant to be part of a really strong, vibrant queer community, all of those things. And then our hope is that this inspires people, maybe even like young people, to take action and to build communities. We are really under fire right now, and I think it's super important to not just know our history, but like where we can go from that.
Yes, the timing right now is very important. You captured voices from such a diverse group, activists, leaders, party promoters, politicians, and cultural icons. How did you go about choosing whose stories to highlight?
That was so hard.
Bet.
I would have loved to have interviewed like another dozen people, but it's just the film originally was supposed to be short. Like it was supposed to be about 10 minutes, and there's just no way we could tell the story we wanted to in that time. But if we had interviewed more people, it would have been a feature. It just would have been feature length. There's so much history there, and all of these different aspects, like all of the women who really helped gay men during the AIDS crisis, the little Fridas which like lesbian owned coffee houses. And now we have fangirl cafe. So we're going back to that a little. So there's so much there.
Yes. Since I know personally know people like Seppi Shine, Marna Deej, and Alana Roche, I'd love to hear what it was like for you as a filmmaker to earn the trust of such strong personalities. Did your approach shift depending on the subject?
No, I mean, my approach is all about letting people know really clearly what my perspective is and what direction the film is going to take. I think that's part of the trust process, to be really open and upfront about what you're hoping to do. And then I ask their opinions. It's not like me going in and saying, okay, I'm just going to tell your story the way I want to. It's about working with them to tell the story accurately and how they feel that it needs to be portrayed so they can trust me. And I think that's the most important thing when you work in documentary is like an ethical perspective and a perspective that's based on trust.
The film also includes figures I've known in the nightlife and political scene, like Robin Gans and Sandy Sachs of Girl Bar, whom I've actually honored at Desert Legends out here in Palm Springs. How important was documenting that nightlife culture alongside the political struggles?
Yeah, it's part and parcel. It's the same. If you have nightlife, you're building community. And when you build community, then you can organize and take action. And so I thought it was really important to show that, to show, okay, it was really fun and it was a blast to have all these different bars and clubs and environments. When you do have that, you're building, I guess you're just building a space for women to come together. And that in itself is a radical act.
The film features so many archival photos and rare footage. Can you share a story about a place of archival shares piece about of archival material that was especially difficult to find or particularly emotional to include?
Yeah, actually, most of this was quite challenging, and it took quite a bit of time to locate different archival images. Like I mentioned, Little Frida's, we only really have two images from there, and the rest is like ephemera, flyers, and things like that. People just didn't go into those spaces and bring at the time still cameras, right? You didn't bring your 35 millimeter camera. We didn't have our phones.
Exactly.
So it was really challenging to find that. And even working with Robin Gans, like it was hard even for them to be able to locate the old images.
Yes.
Everything, we were really fortunate to find some people who had images. And then I want to give a shout out to like the Mazer Lesbian Archives. It was amazing to be able to go in there and look at old LN issues for things that we needed, as well as the photos and everything that they had, and then the One archives. So both of those were really helpful.
Yes, you did an amazing job. What was the biggest challenging editing with such a wide cast of characters in history? How did you decide what stayed in the film and what had to be left on the cutting room floor?
Yeah, editing is always in documentary. We're basically like writing the script in editing. And so that's the most challenging process to do. I want to thank my wife, Chris Chu. It was really great working with her, and she was able to see things differently because she came in near the end when we were like finally getting ready to put everything together. And she was like, nope, this goes here. This is really what your message is. And oh my gosh, it was like fantastic. So that was incredibly helpful to work with her. And then, yeah, there's so much that we have that we just couldn't include. And there's hours and hours that we just couldn't put in the film.
Well, maybe somebody will see it and want to do a whole series.
You know what, Valerie? That's actually my dream is if we had funding would be to make a feature length film and to not just look at like our Boys Town in West Hollywood, but to look at Boys Town in Chicago and then maybe New York as well and kind of talk about the different lesbian communities that lived in all of those places.
I noticed you also touched on political leaders like John Howman, John Duran, and Lindsay Horvath. Did you find that the lines between politics, nightlife, and activism were blurred in ways unique to Boys Town?
Yeah, I mean, it's West Hollywood, right? And I think the city council members are really part of that community. You see them when you're out, you see them at all these different events, and the city sponsors so many different events. So it is, I think, of all the places that I've lived, the most unique where you really do have access. Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, you're not in California, right? Where are you
Not
at right now?
anymore. Yeah. Yeah,
Where are you?
I'm in Orlando, Florida
Okay.
now.
So, on a personal level, how did making this film affect your own view of queer women's history in Los Angeles? Did you leave the process with a new perspective on your own community?
Yeah, I definitely would have to say yes. I learned a lot about history. My films always concern history, feminist history, women's history, and I learned a lot about the struggles and that the women in West Hollywood had gone through before I even moved there. And I think that was incredibly important. I've also learned because of this film from the first inception of it to today, like when we're going to be premiering, was really like 3 years. And in that time, we went from not having any spaces to now having spaces. So we're starting to see a resurgence. And I think that's something that gives hope to other parts of the country as well.
What has been the response so far from the people featured in the documentary? Were there any reactions that surprised you?
Pretty much everybody's really happy with it. I haven't heard anything negative about it. Everybody's just, they've really loved it and they've come on board to help support. In fact, we'll be having a fundraiser to help with our distribution and outreach plan. So we're going to be having that at the Ruby Fruit coming up on October 5th. Yeah, that's everybody's really just been wonderful and so supportive. And speaking of Marna, like she's been so happy just to be in the film and to have this history documented. I think it's just been really wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful person she is. Do you think Lesbians of Boys Town can serve as a model for preserving queer history in other cities that have lost or are losing their spaces?
Definitely. I actually want to start giving some workshops about how you can do this, how you can make films that document your own queer history in your own spaces, because we're being erased. And I think it's so important to preserve everything that we have. And even in West Hollywood, like I said, it was so hard to find some of the archival materials and documentation that this has to be the case all over. And it would be wonderful once you have a documentary, you have this historical record that people can watch years and years from now.
Looking at the current political climate, which we don't like to do, how do you hope younger generations will receive and use this film?
Yeah, that's actually a big part of our outreach and impact strategy. So I'm a professor, I'm a film professor, and I teach undergraduate and graduate students. And we're actually starting our educational distribution, and we have 4 screenings coming up at different institutions. And we really hope that we can just inspire younger generations to take action, to form different communities. Someone who saw a preview of the film said they want to start a Dyke March. Going back to the history, I think is really helpful and inspiring.
With Lesbians of Boys Town screening at the Hollywood Queer Film Festival, a festival I'm so honored for the Hollywood Times to partner with, what do you hope audiences take away when they walk out of that theater?
I want people to be inspired. I want people to feel hopeful. This is a time where our very existence is under attack. And I want people to feel that we have community. We are able to take action and make sure that our rights are not completely taken away and that we aren't erased. I want it to be celebratory, but I also want it to inspire action.
Betsy, what's next for you as a filmmaker? Do you see Lesbians of Boys Town evolving into a larger project like a series, or is it complete in this form?
It's complete as a short, but I would love if someone sees it and wants us to do a longer film and, like I said, focus on other areas of the country that had the same thing where, lesbian history and queer women's history was just discounted and not part of the historical record. I would love that to happen. Yeah,
I would
definitely.
love it. I would love that. So tell our readers and our viewers, how can they find out more about you, your work, and definitely more about this film?
Yeah, so you can find out more on my website, which is itchybproductions.com. And then if you feel like you want to make a contribution, we have a tax deductible contributions through our fiscal sponsor, which is the Center for Independent Documentary. So if you just Google Lesbians in Boys Town, we are the only lesbians in Boys Town out there in the Googleverse. So yeah, you can just Google it, and any contribution that you make goes right into our outreach and distribution.
Betsy, thank you so much for sharing your insights and for bringing Lesbians of Boys Town to the screen. It's a film that preserves a vital piece of our history while reminding us of the power of community and visibility. And for those of you watching, don't miss the chance to see Lesbians of Boys Town at the Hollywood Queer Film Festival. It's more than a film. It's a tribute to the people, the places, and the spirit that continue to define our culture. I'm Valerie Milano with the Hollywood Times. Today. The Hollywood Times Official is our YouTube channel and aspiringmagazine.com. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the festival. Thank you so much again, Betsy.
Thank you.